Da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-da-da-dum. What does that even mean, Bowers Game Corner?
Ahoy there, YouTube! I'm back again today for another game review. And today I'm very excited to check out Slapshot from Columbia Games for 2 to 6 players, ages 8 plus. It'll take about 30 minutes to an hour to play. And in Slapshot, you are going to be forming your own hockey team with forwards and goalies and defensemen and trying to beat your opponents by drafting and fighting and trading your way to the top. It's a light filler card slash family game, but is it good? Let's open it up and I'll tell you. Alright then, we're going to take a look at what you're going to get inside of Slapshot. First and foremost, we got our handy dandy rule booklet. It really is just about one page, double-sided. It's got color. No real illustrations too much though, which would have been nice, but it's still a very simple game, very simple rule booklet. Have you up and running no time at all. And I can teach you how to play the game right now. So in Slapshot, you're going to be taking control of a hockey team, aka one of these colors, that you're going to start the preseason, and you're going to be attempting to make it all the way to the playoffs. Only one team is going to get to the playoffs. Once one team has reached the playoffs by winning that amount of games, they're going to play whichever team is in second place in a best-of-7 hockey game series, and whoever wins that will be the winner of Slapshot. So let's tell you about how the game works. So when you first start the game, you're going to draw 6 cards. You're going to draw 3 forwards, 2 defensemen, and 1 goalies. If you do not know hockey, all you need to know is blue, green, and red. So let's take a look at the cards we have right here. The cards are going to be numbered 1 through 10. Your red card's a very important card because that's going to be your goalie. Whenever you're about to have games of hockey, and whenever you set your goalie out, no one can score on you. The rest of the time, though, it's generally going to be whoever has the higher number. So obviously having higher numbers is going to be better. So this hip checker right here, which is a 3, he's not very good. Likewise, this Antoni Zamboni is not going to be very good at all either. So on your turn, you're going to take one of 3 actions, and the actions are very simple. The first one you can do is that you can draft a player from one of these card decks down here. How you do that? Very simple. You say, all right, I want to get rid of this one right here. You don't have to tell everybody what you're getting rid of. You say, I'm going to get rid of this. You slide it underneath the bottom of the pile, and then you draft the top card from the pile. Look at that. We turned a 1 into a 7 with the chairman of the board. So that's fantastic. Our team is now looking like it might have a fighting chance at something. And that would be our entire turn. Very simple. So, the next action you can take on your turn is what's called a trade. So a draft is when you take from these piles right here. A trade is when you take a card from someone else's pile. You say, all right, I'm going to trade with you. So they fan out their cards like this, and then you draw one of their cards randomly from their hand. Now here's how the trade works. You're going to put this card into your hand, and then you have to give your opponent that you just traded a card of that color that is not this card. So even if it's not to your advantage, so I just got a 10, that's fantastic. So I can trade them and give them a 3. That is just an absolutely fantastic turn for me right there. And that's how a trade works. Now, you may not give your opponent back the same card you took, because sometimes you might take a card, you might grab a 1 or something like that. You're like, I don't want this, but you're stuck. So a trade is always going to be a little bit more dicey compared to a draft, because, a trade you might also be helping out your opponent, whereas a draft, you might just be hurting yourself. So the last action you can take is you can challenge someone to a hockey game. So you say, all right, I'm going to challenge any player on the board. So, let's just say we're orange, we're going to challenge red to a hockey game. What you're going to do is you're going to set out your 6 cards. And I'm going to move everything a little bit so you can see exactly how this is going to work. You're just going to set out your 6 cards like this in whatever order you want to set them out with. So we got our 6 cards right there, and likewise, our opponent is going to do the same thing. And you can do this randomly. You can set this up strategically. I've seen different strategies. Lots of people like to do different strategies. Now, since you challenged the other player, they're going to start with a 1-goal advantage, the home field advantage, and then you're going to go from there. You take turns flipping over 1 row of cards. So let's just see. Right now, our opponent has a 1-goal advantage. So I start off with my 10, start off strong. He has a 7, which means I have won this one up. So now we are tied. It's 0 to 0. Now we have a 6 and a 1/2. Now this is one of the special cards. We'll talk about him in a second, but he's Tiny Tim. He's only worth a 1/2, so I have successfully beaten him with my 6. So now I am up 1. Next we have our goalie, which is a 1, and the other goalie, which is a 9. Now how goalies work are that goalies always stop the blue and the green cards from scoring. So even if this 1 went versus this 10, this goalie would stop him. However, since this is goalie on goalie action, hot stuff, whoever's goalie has the higher number is going to win. So that actually kind of screwed us over quite a little bit. So right now, we went from a 1-point advantage to a dead tie. Now we're going to flip over the next row, and it's an 8 and an 8. That's a tie, so we just keep moving. Right now it's a tie. It's getting intense. We got a 6, and we got a 3. Oh, no. They've taken the lead, which means it's going to come down to this last card. They have a 1-point advantage. They bust out a 3, we bust out a 7, and we win, which is great, because now I can show you how the overtime works. Overtime works, you're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to set out cards once again, and the first person to score a goal is going to win, so it's very important that you start off strong. But this is where a lot of the strategy comes into the game. Let's go back to that Tiny Tim card I talked about. So Tiny Tim is always going to score on goalies. The rest of the time, he's never going to score, which means he is a wild card. He's always a wild card because you're trying to think about what your opponent is going to start with. Is your opponent going to start with a big, strong card like a 10 and just try and win right off the bat? Or are they going to start with a goalie? Because that goalie is, it's going to stop whatever high number the other team is going to play. But now with Tiny Tim in play, you're like, oh man, but if I put out my goalie, he's going to win. Likewise, since you know your opponent has a higher goalie than you, it's just this whole big mind thing. So let's just set out a couple cards. We'll see what happens, just for funsies, to see who's going to win this one. So we start off 6 versus 3, and I would have won with a 6. That would never happen in a real game, most likely. But still, I would have won that round, which means I would have moved up 1 on the score tracker. So we talked about Tiny Tim. Let's talk about the other special kind of card in the game, which are going to be the Bruisers. And they will have a health symbol on them. So here we go. Here's a couple of them. These guys are bruisers, and what they do are they are going to injure whoever they go up against. So, for instance, if these two guys went up against each other, I would actually win, which would be great, because normally the bruisers don't win. But also, this player would be eliminated from my other player's team. He would be injured, so he's going to go in front of that player for the time being, and for the rest of this game, he's only going to have 5 players, which normally doesn't matter unless you go into overtime. And then he's going to put this on the bottom of the deck, and then he will draft a new player, which could be good, it could be bad. But for you, I mean, you still injured somebody, which is great. Anywho, you're going to continue to go until one person gets to the playoffs, at which point this player in second place and the player in the first place are going to have a best-of-7 series with home field advantage alternating until one person has been crowned the champion of Slapshot. And that, in a nutshell, is how the game is played. Oh, great dokey. Slapshot from Columbia Games. What are my final thoughts for the pros? Let's go to the cons. First, on the cons side of the game is not going to be for everybody. Couple different things I wanted to mention. First, component-wise, the components are not as nice as you might want them to be. This is kind of a trademark of Columbia Games. They try to save you a little bit of money, they try to save me a little bit of money, they try to save themselves a little bit of money, but they do that by making just generic black boxes with slip covers, and then the board itself is just like this kind of flimsy-esque cardboard. It looks nice and it's perfectly serviceable, but it could be much nicer. Also, I wish they had just a little card that showed you what color other people were, especially when you're playing a 5- and 6-player game. You'll forget what color other people will. It's important to know the different colors and who's in first and that sort of thing. So that's a minor quibble, but something I did want to mention. It doesn't bother me, but I know it bothers some people. Next, I wish that the special ability rolls were more useful. There are 2 special cards in the game, 2 types of special cards. The first one is Tiny Tim, which I'll talk about ad nauseum. But the next one are the Bruisers, the guys that rough each other up. Now, I feel like those are pretty well balanced. Those guys can play a big role in helping you win or lose. They only go up to 5. But the bottom line is, if you're able to get into a tie with a Bruiser, that means that you are going to have 6 cards to use, and they're only going to have 5, which means they're going to have 1 less card to potentially pick, plus you can injure other people's good players, so on and so forth. So I feel like those are pretty decently balanced. However, Tiny Tim is not. And it's a shame, because he is without a doubt one of the funnest cards in the game. So Tiny Tim is a card that no matter what, if you play against a goalie with that card, you're going to win, which is really cool. However, he's only a 1/2, which means 5 times out of 6, he's going to lose. Now, sure, you'll get that 1 out of 6 every once in a while, and be like, yeah! And it'll be a huge swing, and you'll probably win that contest. But 1 out of 6 really is pretty terrible odds. And every single time that I've played this, I've never seen anyone win the championship with Tiny Tim. Now, I'm sure it is possible, but really, there's no real point to the card. You're always going to get rid of it. Now, I think one thing that would tweak it, if they do a future version of this game, which I would really love, is if Tiny Tim was also a Bruiser, because that makes that card both fun and dual purpose because you know you're either going to get past a goalie, which is fantastic, or you're going to injure somebody, which is fantastic as well. Just something I wanted to mention. Also, this is a very simple game. If you're looking for a game with more meat, you're going to want to look elsewhere. Really, you're only going to be taking one of 3 actions on your turn, and 2 of those actions are incredibly simple. And in fact, even playing the games against each other is very simple. Because honestly, I found that when I mixed the cards up like this and then just randomly set them out versus when I would like strategically think like, okay, I think he's going to do this, so I need to do this. I think he's going to do this, so I can do this. I found they were about even when I won versus when I lost. So that is something I did want to mention. Very random, especially with which cards you draw. Last but not least, I do not recommend this as a 2-player game. I just don't. I didn't have fun with this 2-player game. You need more players. I think the sweet spot is 4. 5 is pushing it just a wee bit. I liked it at 5 and 6, but everyone needs to be paying attention when it's their turn because this game has really quick turns, and if you're not paying attention and the person in front of you goes super quick and just does one of these guys, then you can just sit there and be like, whose turn is it? Oh, it's my turn? Oh, I'm sorry. And I hate when that happens. It's not really a problem with the game, but just something I did want to mention. So 2 players, though, do not recommend it. 3, 4, 5, 6, I enjoyed it all. The player counts, aside from 2. That's what I got on the cons. It's a long list of cons. I like to give a long list of cons when I give a lot of glowing praise to a game, and that's what I'm about to do with Slapshot, because I really enjoy Slapshot. It's this simple. If you're looking for a filler-esque game, it's a little bit heavier than most fillers, or if you're looking for a great family game, look no further. Slapshot is fan-freaking-tastic. It is a lot of fun. It is incredibly simple. Easy to learn, easy to teach. Even if you don't like hockey, you will get past the theme. And I have had everyone I've played this with enjoy it, except for my wife. We played it. I made her play it 2 players with me. She didn't like it then. She did like it with 4 players though. So take that into consideration. So what else do I like about the game? I like just how simple the actions are. I mean, really, you look at the rule booklet, and the rule booklet's incredibly small, which is nice, easy to learn, and you're like, wow, there's nothing really to this game. It's just every once in a while you're replacing a card, and then maybe you're trading, and then you're playing games against each other and trying to get to the playoffs. And that's it. But it really has like this hidden level of strategy and depth that you don't see, where you're like, oh man, where do I think he's going to be playing that goalie? Where do I think he's going to... I know he's got that bruiser. Maybe he's going to play that bruiser first because he thinks I'm going to come out big with my goalie or with my strong guys. And it has like this little extra layer. There's just enough there to make this a fantastic game. And I really enjoyed this game. I just feel like this is going to go over really well with game nights, with families. I even think you could teach this to new gamers. I could see this being a gateway game because it is so simple. Because let's think about the actions. All right, you don't like one of your cards? You get rid of that card, put it on the bottom, you draw a new card from that pile. That's your entire turn. Oh, you don't like one of your cards? Here, you draw one of my cards, and then you give me one of the cards of that color, but not that same card. And then the head-to-head. The head-to-head is the only confusing part that I think new gamers might get confused. We're like, oh, I beat you, but wait, it's my goalie. So wait, the goalie does what? But honestly, I just think this is an incredibly accessible, great game. One I highly recommend. That is Slapshot from Columbia Games. Definitely one that you're going to want to check out if you like stuff that's a little bit on the lighter side. If you enjoyed this review, please be sure to click on the subscribe button down below in the comments below. Let me know if you've ever been to a professional hockey game. Not a minor league hockey game, but a professional hockey game. I've been to a Blackhawks game, and I've been to a Predators game, and I think I went to a Kings game when I was very, very young, but I actually don't remember, so I'm not going to count that. But I've been to 2 AHL games. I would like to go to more. I've been to numerous Blackhawks games. I've only been to 2 stadiums, I should say, 2 venues. But let me know in the comments below. Hockey, do you like it? Have you been to a professional event? As always, thanks for your time, YouTube.